It's midday in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Abuja. Good afternoon, and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. ECOWAS to convene a special summit as all three Sahel Alliance states remain closed to negotiations to rejoin the regional bloc.
It has become evident that changes in the international system, which is significantly affecting our member states, are playing a role. To this end, we are proposing a special summit on the future of our community to examine the development in the world and their impact on our community in terms of governance.
Nigeria's Customs Service intercepts another consignment of military ammunition in the last 72 hours. Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko makes new appointments to his office, and women rights advocates in Sierra Leone welcome the decision by the government to ban child marriages.
As it is now, we believe it is a freedom for us as women, it is freedom for our children, it is freedom for every unborn girl child of Sierra Leone.
Stay with us for details of these stories and more.
Here is Abdullahi Hassan with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast, and a warm welcome to our listeners in Gambia, Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. This edition of Newslink opens in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, where the Economic Community of West African State ECOWAS is convening the 92nd Regional Ministerial Meeting. However, on day 2 of the summit, the president of the ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Omar Ali Toure, informed delegates and representatives of authorities of member states of the bloc's inability to establish a framework for negotiations with transition countries, namely Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. These three states and members of the Alliance of Sahel States AES have not only announced but remain determined to quit ECOWAS despite frantic efforts to get them to reverse their decision. Dr. Toure, however, acknowledged Guinea's willingness to continue working with its sub-regional powerhouse. Concerned about the impact of such action on the Sahelian population, the ECOWAS Commission says it will convene an emergency summit to examine the influence of international politics and policies on West Africa and concretely resolve all conflict. Here's a soundbite of Dr. Omar Ali Toure filed in by WADR's Sankule Janko from the ECOWAS Secretariat.
Excellencies, regarding our member states in transition, I regret to report that we have not yet been able to establish a framework for negotiation with the authorities in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger on their decision to withdraw their membership from the community. Despite our entreaties in the form of softening of sanctions, invitations of the government to technical meetings, and requests for meetings, we have not yet gotten the right signal from these member states. We have, however, gotten positive response from the Republic of Guinea that has been taking part in various activities of the community, and on several instances have underscored their unflinching commitment to ECOWAS. It has become evident that changes in the international system, which is significantly affecting our member states, are playing a role. To this end, we are proposing a special summit on the future of our community to examine the development in the world and their impact on our community with a view to rethink our integration in terms of governance, relations with external partners, our community norms and values, and approach to emerging issues like new technologies, social media, and fake news.
Dr. Omar Ali Toure is president of the ECOWAS Commission. Now, WADR will bring you more from that summit. Meanwhile, in less than 72 hours, the Nigeria Customs Service has intercepted yet another huge consignment of arms and ammunition. This new bust involved the interception of 55 pieces of unassembled semi-automatic shotguns at the cargo airport in Lagos State. Addressing the press, Adewale Adeni, Commissioner General of the Nigeria Customs Service, stated that everything stated as a piece of intelligence for the Mohammed Murtala Airport Command. He explained that the arms were concealed in a shower faucet and valued at 270 million naira or $177,000.
It was established that 4 packages inside this consignment were used to conceal 55 pieces of unassembled Joseph Magnum Tomahawk semi-automatic shotgun. These rifles were concealed using shower faucets. The duty paid value of these illicit arms is 270,888,109 naira 29 kobo only.
Adewale Adeni is the Commissioner General of the Nigeria Customs Service.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Remember, we are live on wadr.org. Back here in Senegal, the Prime Minister has announced new appointments in the capacity of advisors to his office. According to the statement announcing these new appointments, Ousmane Sonko has invited personalities who are professionals in the fields of health, security, oil, defense, mines, diplomacy, finance, budget, communication, and international cooperation to his team. Sonko promoted these personalities to the positions of advisors at the Prime Minister's office in liaison with each ministerial department and state secretariat. According to the appointment note, Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko made recommendations to enable him to optimize his relations with ministers and secretaries of state. To the Sahel region, Mali and Russia are strengthening their cooperation in the field of energy. To this end, a high-level Russian delegation has been in Bamako since Monday. The two countries have signed several memorandums, including one on nuclear power. Moscow wants to position itself as a key player in the energy sector in West Africa. HR Tisu has more.
The high-level Russian delegation in Bamako is led by the head of the Russian Federal Atomic Energy Agency. The two countries signed 3 memorandums of understanding, with the first concerning the assessment and development of nuclear infrastructure in Mali. Bamako wants, in the long term, to resolve the energy crisis that the country has been experiencing for several months, even as the demand for energy constantly increases. The second memorandum concerns an awareness program on the peaceful use of nuclear energy. Emphasis will be placed on education and communication to establish a culture of safety and trust around nuclear energy. Nuclear power, as a reminder, carries risks including radiation, waste management, and potential accidents. Mali, with the assistance of Russia, intends to put in place strict security measures to minimize these dangers. It also plans to put in place rigorous safety protocols to prevent accidents and ensure safe management of nuclear waste. The third memorandum, signed by the Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research, concerns the training of engineers and managers in the field of nuclear energy industry. In the long term, the Malian authorities want to develop local expertise to effectively manage nuclear infrastructures and guarantee their security. The Malian Minister of Energy indicates that nuclear energy combined with renewable energy sources will allow the country to meet its growing energy needs.
HRTC with that report filed in by WADR's Bamako correspondent Aliu Cham. Still in Mali, the Constitutional Court has validated the law which increases the compensation and benefits of members of the Transitional Parliament. The law does not grant a salary to transitional parliamentarians but indicates that they will benefit from new benefits. This decision is considered controversial, especially as the country is going through a difficult socio-economic situation. Nadiri Tete has more on the following report.
Firstly, Article 2 of the new law specifies that the President of the Transitional Parliament will receive a monthly parliamentary allowance in addition to special funds that he already receives. According to Article 5, the Presidents of the Commissions will also benefit from a liability allowance, while Article 6 says his members of Parliament should receive a hardship allowance. The new law also provides for various allowances for members of the National Transitional Council, including, among others, a representation allowance per month, session allowance per day, housing allowance per month, special allowance, telephone allowance, liability compensation, or even a fuel allowance. Speaking on the issue, former Malian Prime Minister Moussa Mara called for these benefits to be reduced by 70%, indicating that the country cannot afford such expenditure in the current difficult economic context. A coalition of opposition political parties took legal action against this new law a few months ago. For them, by validating these advantages, the Constitutional Court makes itself complicit in the laundering of a criminal offense.
Now that it hits with that report. Elsewhere, women's rights activists in Sierra Leone have welcomed the decision by President Julius Maada Bio to ban child marriages in the country. These women activists who have been advocating for a legal framework to enforce the ban on child marriages termed this decision as a freedom. Aminata Finda Masakwai, one of the women's rights advocates in Freetown, told WADR that this news is welcomed and will ensure protection for future generations. The law endorsed last month by the National Assembly criminalizes marrying girls below 18 will jail terms of at least 15 years or a stiff fine of more than $2,000. Here is Aminata Masakwai reacting to the new development.
It is freedom coming to us. If you feel that, as a woman growing up, you are free to make decisions for yourself, then it's definitely freedom all the way. Because looking at my own situation, I cannot even imagine if I was to get married at the age of 14 or 15. That would not have been my own decision. So it wasn't freedom. I would not have referred to that situation as being free or being a free woman. But every woman having the right to decide when to get married. After 18, you are referred to as an adult. So you can make up your mind, okay, I want to get married at this time or after. Anytime. It should be your decision. Nobody should force you into marriage, because we also had a lot of girls that we lost them during childbearing because they were not matured to go through the whole process of giving birth to children. And some were misused and abused. As it is now, we believe it is a freedom for us as women. It is freedom for our children. It is freedom for every unborn girl child of Sierra Leone, because they will not be facing any kind of difficult situation as the others experience.
Aminata Masakwai is a women's rights advocate in Sierra Leone and will join us in the second half of the news as our guest. And just before the break, we head to Côte d'Ivoire, where around 200 people have been poisoned after eating fish from a river polluted by a nearby gold mine. No deaths have been reported yet, but concern is growing among the population of Western Côte d'Ivoire, where the incident was recorded. Augustine Coley has the rest of the details in this report by WADR's Abidjan correspondent Albin Ade.
The 185 patients who suffered mine poisoning after eating fish from Opolute River suffered from bloating, vomiting, and headaches. They were treated at the Oyatoyo Village Health Center, according to Musa Dao, prefect of Souahuyen. The rupture of O5 in a pipe carrying cyanide mother decantation water was the cause of the poisoning. According to the Avura Ministry of the Environment, the water came from the Itego mine. These waters reached an adjacent river before ending up in the Kavala River, the ministry continued in a statement Tuesday evening. The Canadian group Endeavour Mining, operator of the Itego mine located in the Souahuyen area, has denied any endangerment of local populations. A van containing quantities of cyanide broke, followed by a spill of 3,000 liters of the product into the diffusion canal, an area located on the perimeter of the Itego mine, the company's country manager, Leticia Ouattara, to a press conference. The mining company says it has replaced the 40 valves and monitored and tested the river water to ensure there is no contamination. The authorities have asked people to refrain from eating the fish and drinking the river water until further notice.
A report by WADR's Albin Ade in Abidjan and voice in our studios by Augustine Coley. And in Guinea, 10 people from the same family perished in a fire yesterday, Wednesday. The incident occurred in the commune of Dubreka, not far from the capital, Conakry. According to witnesses, the fire was caused by a short circuit. The Guinean government has announced an investigation and strict measures to avoid such a tragedy in the future. You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here's a reminder of our top stories. ECOWAS to convene a special summit as all three Sahel Alliance states remain closed to negotiations to rejoin the sub-regional bloc. Nigeria's Customs Service intercepts another consignment of military ammunition in the last 72 hours. Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko makes new appointments to his office. Women's rights advocates in Sierra Leone welcome decision by the government to ban child marriages. Still ahead in the news, we have the guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
We are live on Facebook at WADR English Service and on YouTube at WADR. The Speaker of Ghana's Parliament, Alban Bangbin, has advised the Minister of Trade and Industry, Katie Hammond, to withdraw the legislative instrument or ally on cement price regulation. This advice follows constitutional arguments raised by a former leader of the minority party in Parliament, Haruna Idrisu. The ally was laid before the House on July 2nd and is expected to mature into law after 21 sitting days. However, Tamale South MP Haruna Idrisu has questioned the legal mandate of the Ghana Standards Authority to regulate the prices of cement in the country. Following this, the Speaker of Parliament advised that the legislative instrument be withdrawn until later notice.
I will advise that the sponsors of the instrument should take a second look at it and, if possible, withdraw and capture it in the appropriate language to come within the statutory limits that we have. It's just an advice. It's not a directive.
Ghana's Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bangbin, speaking there. Still in Ghana, the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, has vehemently opposed the proposed free senior high school HAS bill currently under discussion by the Parliament's Select Committee on Education. The Education Management Body criticized the Minister of Education, Dr. Ose Adutun's proposal to separate junior high schools, JHS, from primary schools and abolish the Basic Education Certificate examination as a prerequisite for senior high schools admission. But NAGRAT described these plans as unfortunate and stressed the need for broader stakeholder engagement before implementing such significant educational reforms. They also expressed their disappointment over the lack of extensive stakeholder consultations and input on the impending free senior high school bill. NAGRAT has meanwhile demanded that the government of Ghana postpone presenting the bill to Parliament to allow for inclusive consultations and ensure all perspectives are considered. The association also urged the Parliamentary Select Committee on Education to reject the bill in its current form due to the absence of input from education stakeholders, particularly teacher unions.
Politics,
Analysis on major news.
social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview this afternoon takes us back to Sierra Leone, where the celebration continues over the enactment of a law banning child marriages. Aminata Finda Masakwai, one of the women's rights advocates in Freetown, told WADR that this news is welcomed and will ensure protection for future generations. But the big question is, what is next?
Well, it's great news. It's something laudable because we think for women's empowerment, it starts from childhood. You have to prepare the child, the girl child, from the stage of growing up until getting on into maturity. So in any aspect of that growth, the stages of life, you interrupt the girl at any stage of her life, then you are not doing anything good to her. And, talking about marriage is always better that, people make up their mind when they want to marry, get married, when they want to settle down, who they want to settle down with. Most of the times when you talk about child marriage, it's about arranged marriages or forced marriages, because a child cannot decide that I want to get married. So they will be in school. They will be taking them out of school to get into marriages. So for us, this is something huge. We've been fighting for the rights of, the girl child all these years. But for the president and, the entire team to say now, enough is enough. We now have it as a law. Child marriage is being banned, as a country. I think this is something we should celebrate.
And then there's also the bit about what your president said, and I quote him. He says, freedom has come for our women. Is that how you feel as well?
It is freedom coming to us. If you feel that, as a woman growing up, you are free to make decisions for yourself, then it's definitely freedom all the way. Because looking at my own situation, I cannot even imagine if I was to get married at the age of 14 or 15. That would not have been my own decision. So it wasn't freedom. I would not have referred to that situation as being free or being a free woman. But every woman having the right to decide when to get married after 18, you are referred to as an adult. So you can make up your mind, okay, I want to get married at this time or after. Anytime. It should be your decision. Nobody should force you into marriage, because we also had a lot of girls that we lost them during childbearing because they were not matured to go through the whole process of giving birth to children. And some were misused and abused. Because if you give a 13-year-old girl to a 40-year-old man, that was ridiculous. If we have this ban now, as it is now, we believe it is a freedom for us as women. It is freedom for our children. It is freedom for every unborn girl child of Sierra Leone, because they will not be facing any kind of difficult situation as the others experience.
And what do you make of the punitive measures that have been set out to say people can go in for 15 years or to pay a fine of $2,000? Do you think that is enough or it is too harsh? What do you make of it?
Nothing is enough for the wrongdoings. That's my own candid opinion. If this is a law, respect it. And it's easy to just go by what the law says. This particular act has been banned. So why do you keep doing it? So if you do it, you violate it, then face the consequences of the law. $2,000. If it should go alongside the 15 years jail, then that's fine for me. But for an ordinary fine of $2,000 will be ridiculous. So it should go side by side. The 15 years is good. It should be 15 years and $2,000, but not $2,000 without any jail term.
Now that this has been enacted, what is next after all of this?
What we have to do now is to monitor every process and to make sure we don't keep violators under the carpet. Some people are saying there are some clauses, even if I am invited to a wedding of an underage, I will also face the penalties of the law. That's good. Physically, a matured woman is not difficult to identify. So if I think this particular maiden is underage, then I will not attend that wedding. And people are saying now we should be asking for, birth certificate. No, I don't need to ask for a birth certificate. I should first try to identify whoever is getting married. With my eyes, that will determine if this person is matured, if she is over 18 or not. So I think we just need to monitor the whole process and try to make sure the law takes the full force and it is effective.
Aminata Finda Masakwai is a women's rights advocate in Freetown, Sierra Leone. Up next is a sports update with Sankule Janko.
Hello there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. Ahead of the official draw of the Total Energies CAF Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2025 qualifiers, the Confederation of African Football CAF officially released the draw procedures of CAF's flagship competition qualifiers. Set to take place in Johannesburg on Thursday, the draw will see a total of 48 African nations engaged to determine who qualifies for the 35th edition of the biggest event on African soil, according to the CAF official website. The engaged teams will be grouped into 4 pots of 12. The highest-ranked nations, as per the latest FIFA rankings issued out on 20 June 2024, will occupy Pot 1, with the same procedure to be followed for Pot 2, 3 and 4 to make up the 48 nations. The concluded draw of the qualifiers will be made up of 12 groups of 4 teams, Group A to L, where the first and runners-up in the 11 groups that do not involve tournament host Morocco will gain qualification to the competition. For teams that finished first and second in a group consisting of Morocco, who by virtue of being tournament host gain automatic qualification, the following scenarios will be applied. If the host is ranked first, the host is qualified in addition to the second of the group. If the host is ranked second, the host will qualify in addition to the first of the group. If the host is ranked third or fourth, the host will qualify in addition to the first of the group. The first ball will be drawn from pot 4 and will go to position A4. The procedure will be repeated for the remaining teams of pot 4, who will go to position B4, C4, D4, E4, F4, G4, H4, I4, J4, K4 and L4 according to the draw order. The same procedure as above will be repeated for port 3, port 2 and finally port 1. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
Sponsors are brought to you by Sankule Janko. And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maojo Juve for the technical support. Do interact with us via social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our environment flagship program, Enviroscope. And at the top of the hour is Demba Amar Ann will bring you the second edition of our news in French Info Shifu. I'm Abdullahi Hassan. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.9